All right, so the breast tissue controls are going to be a little easier. I'm glad I finally have an opportunity to use a fairly cheap solution. So they were sitting under cluster control. And one thing I should remember to do is make sure I move these because they have been resolved with in context blend shapes, but the breast tissue fat can sit under an advanced skeleton cluster control because all I need is just something to create secondary movement when the chest is moving around. I'm going to grab my soft mod tool for advanced skeleton. Should I grab my mesh first? Grab my soft mod tool and pick a region. And I'm really going to go with a wide region because I will weight paint this to make sure I have the area that I need. And perhaps I have picked a bad location. I should probably pick the center of the breast tissue, and that's going to be a little easier. I'm going to hold down the D key to pick a wide area of influence so I can encapsulate the entire breast tissue over there. Then I'm going to click on Create Cluster Control. I'm going to call it Cluster Breast Tissue. I definitely want it mirrored. It is not a middle control. And I definitely want it parented to the chest. So I'll go OK. All right, so it looks like it did create the control, but I do believe it failed to mirror. I wonder why it, yeah, that's definitely wrong. Isolate and reshape this control. Yeah, there's definitely something wrong with, yeah, it's having a difficult time because this has become a very busy mesh with lots of weights on it. Let me look at the input order. All right, so that's where it dumped the cluster. It did its best to try to position it somewhere. But yeah, it's behaving really weird. So it looks like it would have been a great solution, but it looks like I'm gonna have to find my own custom solution with as much as I'm playing with the mesh right now. I doubt advanced skeleton stuff is going to respond intelligently. But yeah, it took a really long time and it did not mirror the results, even though I had mirror checked. And the area of influence is really weird, even though it's easy to paint that area of influence. If it's misbehaving like this, I don't want to count on it because I don't know what it did when it failed to run the complete operation, whether it attempted to do the right side and created a whole bunch of nodes somewhere that I don't know about. So I'm not going to count on it for my fix, and I'm going to try to go with something else. All right, so since we're having this issue with advanced skeletons custom cluster control with what we just experienced, I'm going to go ahead and use my cluster approach. So I'm going to address this issue with a cluster through a traditional intermediary blend shape. So I'm going to cut this and put it here. Behind the scenes, I'll try to figure out why advanced skeleton is responding that way. Anyway, so let's go with this simpler cluster approach. So I'm going to do one side and then I'll do the other behind the scenes or just zip through it like I usually do. So here, I'm going to go into the front view and I'm going to select a healthy amount of verts because I know I'm going to paint away my influence. So I can just have the correct influence region. Hit the 4 key and deselect everything in the back here. Go back to perspective, hit the 5 key. And now that I think about it, knowing the way these things behave, I should probably paint more of a region. With clusters, when you select, you're pretty much locking in your selection. It's hard to add new areas for it to impact. Actually, it might be a lot easier if I use component tags. Component tags is something I haven't used yet in this project, and I will be very soon.
But yeah, it should be easy to reassign new points to the cluster via component tags. But for now, let's just go with this approach. So this is the selection area. I'm going to go deform, go to the cluster menu. And for this, I am going to check this option relative mode. This ensures that I'm going to create a control on the main rig to control this cluster. And if that control is parented to something, this ensures that whatever that control is parented to doesn't produce double transformations when it moves, right? So you have to check this relative option so that your cluster is only impacted by the control that's directly controlling it and not a control that's controlling the control that's directly controlling your cluster. So I'm going to go create. All right, so the cluster is created over there. And immediately, for the sake of positioning, I'm going to go into the shape node of the cluster. And it has a positioning parameters for you to position the origin of the cluster. So I'm going to start here and just try to get it out. So I'll use Z to get it out. And that's about a good location. Yep, I think that's fine. All right, and then the next thing I'm gonna do is just make sure I snap its pivot to the actual cluster. And now if we move it, we should see the entire area of influence. And obviously that is way too much. So now it's time to weight paint. So I'm going to select my mesh and go deform, paint weights, and grab the cluster weight paints window. Select options. And I should be fine with using a subtractive approach. But when I was trying this for the ankle fix, I did run into some issues when I tried to use a subtractive approach, but I know it does work. So I'm just going to go add, and I'm going to make sure my minimum value is at a minus 0.1. And I'm going to gradually come down, bring my value down, and just start subtracting. It looks like it's just it's somewhat of a small number, so I should probably go with a minus 0.5, and I'll see more notable changes as I erase. Yeah, I'm going to erase here. And I want to be careful. That is a very powerful weight to use as an eraser. I only feel comfortable doing it because I'm on the outskirts. So let me be a little bit more careful here. I just want the area of influence to be really blended so it has an organic feel when it's being moved around, when the control is being moved. All right, that should be enough with this 0.5. I'm going to bring it a lot lower. I really just want to make sure that it's controlling the bottom half or the lower portion, the lower extremity of the tissue. So it shouldn't really be going this far up. All right, let's take a move of the cluster, see what we have. So if I was to move it, yeah, this is the weird inverted behavior I was talking about. Or I might not have mentioned it, but it does do this weird thing when you're doing the additive or subtractive way of removing influence. Let me actually just move it into position and show you how it's rectified when you just use replace. So if I was to go back to my paint cluster weights And I will just use replace with a 0. And it returns everybody back to what they're supposed to be, that entire area of influence. Let me smooth the result here. Actually, let me do a smooth flood. See what this movement feels like. Yeah, it's not bad. This is the kind of movement I was hoping for. A very subtle movement of the tissue to help produce some secondary movement during animation. And it can even be used to produce somewhat of a jiggle effect. So it's good enough. It was not supposed to be a particularly complex deformation. It's just a way to move the tissue. All right, so that's good enough. And let's bring the whole rig back and let's see it responding on the actual rig. It's working. And it really won't be used in this capacity. It's really subtle movements. Okay, so now it's time to connect this thing to a control system.